dalasi man mosuma si àndata du mosuma sa ànda
yow xaalis boobu nu mu fa ñëwee loolu nga war a njëkk a laajte because social security institution doo xam ne social security warut a ñàkk a xaalis yëfi profit social security loolu waxtaani banda la loolu dafa war a automatique
Barrow lu ma ko ñaan mooy na wàcce 3 years am su demee 5 years dafa am problème leadership bu fi bàyyi dafa bon right now amul direction bu correct réew mi ñëpp seen am na disappointment si nguuri Barrow
benn nit mënut a jagal réew da ngaa def li nga war a def bàyyi keneen ñu continuer
Musa lu xew
just hear the noise, whip, two stroke, and the man fall down.
Former Corporal Alaji Kanyi has said Usman Koro Sise was beaten to death by him, Edward Yankoba and Peter Singate at Yankoba's house in Kololi before being burnt in his car around Jambur. The U.S. and North Korean leaders cut short their summit in Hanoi with U.S. President Trump saying he could not agree to the North's request for a complete lifting of sanctions. Journalists from the Algerian public television rallied to denounce the media coverage of the protests against a fifth term of President Abdelaziz Bouteflika. These are the headlines, more coming on your way on The World Today. It's midnight in Istanbul, 1 p.m. in Washington State, 2100 GMT here in the Gambia. You're watching The World Today Evening Bulletin. We now take a look at our first story. The most awaited witness of the Truth Commission, Alaji Kanyi, has accepted guilty of participating in the elimination of former Secretary of State for Finance, Usman Koro Sise, and others. Testifying at the 26th sitting of the TRRC today, former military officer and now Divisional Commissioner of the Immigration in Lower River Region said Koro Sise was beaten to death at Yankuba Toure's house in Kololi. Al Hassan Sise has more on that.
The 26th sitting of the Truth, Reconciliation and Reparation Commission, Mr. Alaji Kanyi, a former military officer who was previously mentioned by various witnesses as engaged in killings for the junta regime, today revealed that Edward Singate, Peter Singate, and Yankuba Toure participated in the killing of former Secretary of State for Finance and Economic Affairs, Usman Koro Sise. He said they gathered at Edward Singate's residence at Bakau. There they were informed by Edward that they will be heading to Yankuba Toure's residence where they will be receiving a minister. According to him, when they got there, they didn't meet any guard or a family member at Yankuba's residence, which was strange to them. He added, after some moments, Peter Singate arrived few minutes before Edward and Usman Koro Sise arrived to inform them that they were coming. He remarked when they arrived as Edward and Usman were entering through the corridor, Peter Singate popped from behind and hit Usman Koro Sise twice with a baton on his head, thus leading Mr. Sise falling to the ground with blood spilling all over. He said Yankuba Toure collected Peter Singate's baton, then started hitting too, while he used a firewood and Edward Singate used a pestle to strike.
We meet no guard there and no family members, like his wife and family, wife and whatsoever. No wife, no guards, no nothing. So on that, is Palu who told us that, are we here for guards? I said, well, we are here, and they said they are coming with one minister. Edward lead, I follow him, and the minister was following me, coming inside the house. As we are entering, I just hear the noise, whip, two struck, and the bomb man fall down. As surprise attack at the back, I also take a step forward. That's the Edu turned to me. That is the guy. There was like what they used to palm pepper in the local language, kuda, kanturang. That's what Edu take and hit.
Pistol in English.
Yes.
Kur in Wolof. That's it?
Hit him for the third stroke. Everywhere was blood. And near him, there was a firewood stick where he picked and gave it to me, for me also to hit. I also hit. Then Yankuba took the stick from Peter, and he also hit. And he called the rest of the people. We all hit.
In his testimony, he refuted the claims by previous witnesses that he chopped off Jibril Sey's leg and the shooting of Basiru Barrow and Dotfal. He remarked the council members came at the camp with a truck along. He said he climbed the truck and saw Lieutenant Basiru Barrow and Dotfal lying dead already. He added as he stepped down, he was asked to get rid of Basiru Kamara by Sana Sabali, while Edward Singate instructed him to follow him as he was going with Basiru Barrow and Fafanyang, both naked and their hands tied from behind. He said Sana Sabali gave the instruction for them to fire at Basiru Barrow and Fafanyang, which he and Edward Singate honored.
So that's the time myself, I went to the truck, I climbed up and see two soldiers lying down. That is Basiru Barrow and Lieutenant Dotfal. That is Lieutenant Basiru Barrow and Lieutenant Dotfal. Yeah.
Were they alive at this stage?
No, sir. They were completely dead. Then Edu called me, can you follow me? And then this Basiru Kamara was going, like we are following him. Just in the next, before we arrived around Cookhouse End, Sergeant Fafanyang also came out.
From where?
It's like the same, I just saw him around, you know, and then...
And how was he dressed, Sergeant Fafanyang?
He's also naked, and hands are tied at the back.
So these were captured soldiers?
Captured people. And Edward called him, fucking join him. He told him to fucking join Basiru Kamara.
And where were they headed?
Myself and Edward, was together with these two people, they are heading us around the Cookhouse End. And I was instructed by then Sana and Edward to open fire on them, causing death. It's me and Edward. So, and these two people also, I they are in our front. So, but
you pointed your weapon at them, correct?
At them, yes, sir.
How about Edward? Did he point his weapon at them?
The same thing.
And you fired at Bust, correct?
Yes, sir.
Did Edward fire at Bust?
Very well.
He further revealed that on the same day, around 1 to 2, council members came back again to the barrack with a Land Rover loaded with captured soldiers, who were Lieutenant Jibril Sey, Lieutenant Abdullah Bah, Lieutenant Buba Jame, Lieutenant Lamin Dabo, Lieutenant Bakari Mane, and Cadet Amadou Silla. He added they proceeded with them to Brikama Nyambai Forest, where they lined up the captives, giving them their bags while they were standing with the council members in an extended line facing the captives. He emphasized Sana Sabali gave a fire order which they all honored and opened fire on them.
From there, we left the Yundum barracks along the road to Brikama to Nyambai Forest end. We go up to when we pass Farado, going towards Brikama. Before we reach to that beans factory, Nyambai Forest, there is a road on the right side of the road. That's where we branch up. They were tied.
Hands behind their back?
Hands behind the back.
And then what happened? They dropped down?
And then they dropped down, taken to for a distance in front of us. We and the council members, I was part of them. Council members with their orderly, we line up and facing them. Sana give order of fire.
And what happened?
And we fire on them.
Mr. Alaji Kanyi joined the Gambia National Army in 1986 and retired in December 1997. He later joined the Immigration Department and currently the LRR Divisional Commissioner. Reporting for iAfrica TV, I am Al Hassan Sise.
Shocking revelations there by Alaji Kanyi, former military officer of the Gambia Armed Force. The TRRC said the United Nations message, both publicly and privately, to both India and Pakistan is to urgently take steps to lower tensions through meaningful mutual engagement and meet their responsibilities to maintain peace and security in the region. The TRRC was speaking to journalists in New York as tensions mount on the border between India and Pakistan in the disputed area of Kashmir. Here is an insert.
He received a call yesterday from the foreign minister of Pakistan. There have been contacts, various levels, with all sides. He's obviously following the situation as we see it even today with deep concern, and the United Nations message, both publicly and privately to both sides, is to urgently take steps to lower tensions through meaningful mutual engagement and meet their responsibilities to maintain peace and security in the region.
As part of President Adama Barrow's two-day official visit to Mauritania, the Gambia has signed 2 memorandums of understanding with Mauritania. The MOU on fisheries and bilateral will promote bilateral cooperation, understanding and investment in the area of maritime investment and fishing, as well as encourage regular consultations on global issues of concern to both countries in the spirit of consolidating African integration and common positions. His Excellency President Adama Barrow's two-day official visit to the Islamic Republic of Mauritania culminated with the signing of memorandums of understanding between the two countries. The MOUs will promote bilateral cooperation, understanding and investment in the area of maritime investment and fishing, as well as encourage regular consultations on global issues. The MOUs will promote bilateral cooperation, understanding and investment in the area of maritime investment and fishing, as well as encourage regular consultation on global issues of concern to both countries in the spirit of consolidating African integration and common positions. The objectives of the fishing agreement are to promote trade, boost investment, and encourage the exchange of technical know-how and best practices in maritime and fisheries sectors of both countries.
Earlier, President Barrow held a private meeting with President Mohamed Ould Abdel Aziz after he was received in grand style at the Nouakchott International Airport. The series of activities marked by a windy atmosphere in Nouakchott culminated in President's meeting with the Gambian community in Mauritania. Over 300 Gambian citizens paid a courtesy call on President Barrow at his residence at the presidential villa. Speakers took turns to express delight at having the president in their midst while taking the opportunity to share some of the challenges they are faced as a community in Mauritania. Having keenly listened to the concerns raised, President Barrow began with commending the Gambian community for seeking an audience with him. He told the gathering about how impressed his counterpart is about the law-abiding nature of Gambians, while calling on them to always maintain the good conduct that would sell the image of the Gambia. The president passionately spoke about the level of cooperation between the two countries, describing President Aziz as a brother and true friend of the Gambia. President Barrow reminded them of the need to work hard and save back home in preparation for rainy days. He assured them of his government's commitment to the welfare of Gambians living abroad. Other speakers include the Foreign Minister and the Ambassador of the Gambia in Mauritania, both of whom pledged to work on improving the conditions of Gambians. For iAfrica TV News, I am Fatoumata Jaju.
Agriculture Minister George Estes has resigned over Theresa May's decision to allow a vote on delaying Brexit if her deal is rejected again by MPs. In his resignation letter to the Prime Minister, Mr. Estes said he wants to be free to participate in the critical debate that will take place in the weeks ahead. The MP for Camborne and Ridge Road in Cornwall said he fears events in Parliament will lead to a series of events culminating in the EU dictating the terms of any extension requested and the final humiliation of our country. The Prime Minister vowed to give MPs the chance to express their consent for either outcome should they vote down her revised Brexit deal, which she has pledged to bring back to the Commons by 12 March. Coming up after the break, the US and North Korean leaders cut short their summit in Hanoi with US President Trump saying he could not agree to the North's request for a complete lifting of sanctions. Fear over electoral rigging rocks Zimbabwe as the country.
Yesterday, after listening to Prime Minister May's assessment of the state of the negotiations,
Welcome back. We remind you that you're watching the World Today Evening Bulletin. Let's now take a look at the remaining stories. The US and North Korean leaders early today unexpectedly cut short their summit in Hanoi, with US President Trump saying he could not agree to the North's request for a complete lifting of sanctions. Sometimes we have to walk away, he said, about leaving the summit session halfway, and we decided not to sign anything. Speaking to reporters in Vietnamese capital soon after exiting the summit with Kim Jong-un, President Trump said it was about sanctions. Kim wanted sanctions to be lifted entirely, but they could not do that.
On North Korea, we just left Chairman Kim. We had a really, I think, a very productive time. We thought, and I thought, and Secretary Pompeo felt that it wasn't a good thing to be signing anything. I'm going to let Mike speak about it. But we literally just left. We spent pretty much all day with Kim Jong-un, who is he's quite a guy and quite a character, and I think our relationship is very strong. But at this time, we had some options, and at this time we decided not to do any of the options, and we'll see where that goes. But it was a very interesting 2 days, and I think actually it was a very productive 2 days, but sometimes you have to walk. Basically, they wanted the sanctions lifted in their entirety, and we couldn't do that. They were willing to denuke a large portion of the areas that we wanted, but we couldn't give up all of the sanctions for that. So we continue to work, and we'll see, but we had to walk away from that particular suggestion. We had to walk away from that.
Will all the sanctions that are currently in existence remain, sir?
They're in place. I was watching, as a lot of you folks over the weeks have said, we've given up. We haven't given up anything. And frankly, I think we'll end up being very good friends with Chairman Kim and with North Korea, and I think they have tremendous potential. I've been telling everybody they have tremendous potential, unbelievable potential. But we're going to see. But it was about sanctions. I mean, they wanted sanctions lifted, but they weren't willing to do an area that we wanted. They were willing to give us areas, but not the ones we wanted. John?
As we know, I mean, there's an incredibly complex set of issues that are at play here in terms of lifting the sanctions and what denuclearization is.
Right.
Did you get any distance toward sort of what Kim's vision of denuclearization
Yes, we
is?
did.
Because
We
there is a lot of line of thinking that he wants to keep some nukes.
Yeah.
I mean, would you allow him to do that? And if you
Well,
can't,
I don't, John. I don't want to comment. Excuse me. I don't want to comment on that exactly, but he has a certain vision, and it's not exactly our vision, but it's a lot closer than it was a year ago. And I think, eventually we'll get there. But for this particular visit, we decided that we had to walk, and we'll see what happens.
The Gambia Press Union tomorrow, Friday, will commence a 2-day workshop with artists, filmmakers, theater troupes, music producers and promoters on freedom of expression and access to information. The workshop is organized as part of a 2-year project the union is implementing with the support of the United Nations Democracy Fund. The objective is to make people in the work of arts understand the centrality of their role in the advocacy for free speech and access to info laws in the Gambia. It is expected that the workshop will make the artists see the need to build songs and theaters on issues of free speech and access to info. Journalists from the Algerian public television rallied to denounce the media coverage of the protest against a 5th term of President Abdelaziz Bouteflika in Algiers. State media have been silent on the public protest, and national radio journalists complained they were being prevented from reporting on the opposition to Bouteflika. In an unsigned letter to management, state media journalists attacked the decision by the hierarchy to ignore the rallies and deplored the skewing of coverage in favor of the president.
A dozen journalists rallying against alleged censorship of protests against Algerian President Abdelaziz Bouteflika were arrested in Algiers on Thursday. The journalists were participating in a 100% strong protest against what they said were state-backed efforts to muzzle coverage of demonstrations against Bouteflika running for a new president term. Bouteflika, 81, has held power since 1999 despite several bouts of ill health. He has declared he will run again for the presidency in Algeria's 18 April elections. In response, protests have erupted in and around the capital Algiers and other cities in the North African country over the past week. On Thursday, some 100 journalists, both from print and online, congregated in central Algiers railing against apparent reporting restrictions. The journalists who work for both state-owned and private outlets said they have been unable to carry out their work properly since protests broke out on Friday. "Free our colleagues," the remaining journalists shouted as those arrested were taken away in the back of police vans. Fourth Estate, not a press that follows orders. Protests against the continuing rule of Bouteflika, who uses a wheelchair and is Algeria's longest-serving president, have attracted huge crowds. On Tuesday, tens of thousands of students took to the streets chanting "Peaceful, peaceful" and "No to a 5th term." Protests in Algerian capital are banned. Despite the large protests seen repeatedly over recent days, their absence on private channels and the state broadcaster has been conspicuous. Radio journalists working for state media said they have been ordered not to cover them. Media freedom watchdog Reporters Without Borders accused Algerian authorities on Tuesday of attempting to muzzle the media. Bouteflika is widely expected to win April's elections as he has the backing of the National Liberation Front Party as well as several other influential political parties and trade unions. Meanwhile, Algeria's opposition is weak and fractured. For iAfrica TV News, I am Fatoumata Jaju.
Top officials from Turkey and European Council gathered for the third high-level economic dialogue meeting in Istanbul on Thursday. Attended by several business people and officials, the meeting discussed the issues of visa exemption, promotion of bilateral investment, political and trade relations, update of custom union, and economic reforms. Jirki Katainan speaks at a joint press conference after the high-level economic dialogue meeting. Let's take a look at this insert.
This high-level economic dialogue is just one additional example of political dialogue which EU and Turkey is holding all the time. Just to give you a few examples, a part of high-level economic dialogue, last year we had a leaders meeting in Varna. Then we had high-level political dialogue where High Representative Vice President Federica Mogherini and Commissioner Hahn participated with Turkish counterparts. Also, we had in the beginning of this year high-level transport dialogue, and we are looking for an opportunity for high-level energy dialogue. And these are just a few recent examples of political discussions. And the purpose of these discussions is to solve problems and improve connections, improve economic connections, but improve political connections. So, as I said earlier today, it's always better to talk with each other rather than talk of each other. So we don't need megaphone diplomacy, but we just need normal political dialogue. So, in economic terms, EU is by far the Turkey's largest trading and foreign investor partner. Last year, Turkey increased its export of goods to EU by 9% to more than 76 billion. And Turkey is our fifth largest trading partner. So the connections are deep and they function in everyday level. We have recently been cooperating very deeply on migration issue, on security issue, including counter-terrorism, which is of both sides' interest. There are also other areas like energy, environment, transport, to name few, where we have natural interest and where cooperation is on everyday basis. It's not only talks, but concrete actions. I'll just give you one concrete example of this cooperation from the fields of transport. Today, my colleague, Commissioner Bulc, will sign an agreement with her Turkish counterpart on joint project. It's a construction of jointly financed Halkali-Kabikule railway line. And EU has made available 275 million euros for this project. So it connects the two, EU and Turkey, and it's very real and concrete.
Well, viewers, that's all we have for you on the World Today Evening Bulletin. For more on these and other stories, log on to our website, iAfrica.tv. I am Fatmata Jaju. Bye for now.